It's easy to forget that not every single time that you get stuck on your book is writer's block, and sometimes it's just us avoiding certain things in our books, and avoiding writing a certain part and facing ourselves when writing, and really getting into those deeper questions, which we'll talk about later in the video. These are my 5 top tips when confronted by writer's block. The first one is letting the characters drive the plot. Now, this is something that I've learned more recently, and it's realizing the power that your characters have when telling a story. When outlining a story, it's easy to leave out important stuff that we don't realize at the time is going to be pretty crucial later down the line. When you find yourself getting stuck, try playing around with your story, and this means not committing to what you're writing next. So for example, you're stuck. Try throwing in a plot twist. Now, it might not make sense, and it's maybe something that you didn't really plan for, but it's interesting to see the things that we come up with when we introduce a spark like that in our books. And mainly, it reminds us that our characters are real people to us, and it's a way of recognizing the way our characters will respond to specific things. Later on, you might decide to completely trash that plot twist and completely trash the chapter, but at least it gets you out of that writing stump, and it allows you to realize the potential of your characters and the kinds of situations they could go through, where you learn more about their personalities and the character traits, and make it a much more well-rounded story from their perspective. The second one is a pretty obvious one, and that's change your environment. And when I say change your environment, it could mean literally getting up from your writing desk and moving to the bed and writing over there. If you're anything like me, then sometimes I tend to become a perfectionist in the way I write and how I'm writing and how much I'm writing. So that includes including very rigid routines and telling myself that, you need to finish this chapter sitting over here in one go, sitting at your table. But sometimes I've noticed that when I change up my environment and I'm much more comfortable, lazing on the couch or taking my laptop to the bed, sometimes I write better in those situations. So if you're anything like that, then try changing these things. You don't have to go drastic. You don't have to go to a very faraway coffee shop to do the same amount of writing you could by just switching it up in your house. Another thing in this is that some people like to wake up super early and get their writing done before, their day jobs and all of that kind of stuff. But I have come to learn about myself that I get my best writing done at night when everyone's asleep, and it's really quiet, and for some reason that works best for me, and that's something you might want to look into yourself. Number 3 is social media and how exhausting it can get. Usually when I'm sitting down to write, I pick up my phone and I start scrolling, and time can pass by without even realizing it. And what happens is that I start comparing myself, I start thinking about my project and comparing it to other sorts of stories in the genre, and I'm starting to doubt myself and worrying that if I'm not doing enough for my story. Social media, as you already probably know, it can get quite tiring, and just the way it affects your mental health and other things in life, it can affect your writing too. So I would suggest step back and reassess how much time you're giving to social media and other screen time when you're supposed to be writing. Number 4, working on something different other than your main manuscript. Sometimes when I'm absolutely stuck, an idea is sparked or generated from a totally side project. Now this, for example, could be a short story that I just decided to start writing because I'm stuck. And while writing that short story, because I'm not committing to it, I'm not pressurizing myself into a certain kind of pre-outline, it allows me to venture into different kind of topics and different kind of situations that could have done better in my previous manuscript, in the main manuscript that I'm working on. I like this technique because it keeps you writing, it keeps you productive, it keeps you feeling a bit fulfilled, and there's nothing wrong with getting in that extra practice. Number 5 is realizing where your writer's block is essentially coming from. And it's over here that I'd like to insert a picture of Neil Gaiman, and he points out something quite interesting. The biggest thing of all is remembering that you are stuck. Sometimes it's just being shallow, sometimes you actually need to be a bit better than you are. Go a bit deeper, get a bit more honest. Okay, why have I stopped writing this? I've stopped writing this because if I go into it, it's a deeper, darker place. And I totally agree with that. There are topics, there are personalities that we just cannot, as writers, fully immerse ourselves into the characters and kind of detach ourselves from our characters. And they might be more troubling scenes or parts of your story that generate a certain kind of response from you subconsciously and we don't even realize it. And it's important that we detach ourselves from our characters, because if we don't, we're not completely being true to our characters and we're not letting them be as they are. And that's something that I've learned more recently, and I find it quite interesting that he points this out. I feel like him pointing it out means that more people go through this than we realize, and it could be something that you're going through and we don't even, you don't realize it. So anyway, those were my 5 easiest ways to overcome writer's block that I feel are quite practical and insightful. If there are other ways that you feel are useful, please do share them down below in the comments for other writers to read. It could be super helpful for the writing community to go through them as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.